It's mock draft time, and this time we let Mike Renner do the mock drafts. I usually do the mocks, Mike, but I let you do one this time. You did it a little bit differently. I like to always go by what I would do and try to really show who we think the best players are. You went more with the predictive mock draft. It's all over at ProFootballFocus.com and right down below in the ticker. So let's get right to it. Remember, forget about draft order for a few minutes. We know things are going to change. It's based off of where things are as we are here in Week 13 in the NFL. But top of the draft, you have the San Francisco 49ers taking Nick Bosa from Ohio State. What went into that decision?
Well, the 49ers, they're a somewhat analytically driven team. They've been all right at drafting under John Lynch, but I think the fact of the matter is here, while they've had 3 first-rounders along that defensive line in the last 4 years, they haven't really hit on all 3. You know, they haven't hit on all those guys. It's still a huge need. They're at edge. So if you're going based on that, it's a sunk cost at that point. The fact that you've invested 3 first-rounders, that's not going to change. Go with need. Go with best player available. No one fits that better than Nick Bosa at the top of the draft. He is, in our opinion, the best player in this draft and fits a need for them at edge because they still need pass rushers. So those two go together. If you're doing anything else, I think you're overthinking it if you're the 49ers.
Yeah, it really is a perfect fit because they do need a pure edge defender. Solomon Thomas, Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner, those previous guys you mentioned, slightly different players than Bosa. Now, Raiders fans were questioning you here at number 2. We'll talk about the Raiders a little bit, but the first quarterback's off the board, Justin Herbert from Oregon. Derek Carr, of course, you know, kind of a roller coaster of emotions this year. It seemed like maybe he's not going to be back in Oakland. He had a great game last week against Kansas City. Do we think Oakland's definitely going to be moving on from Carr, and that's why they're going Herbert here?
I'm not even sure you have to move on from Carr to draft someone like Justin Herbert at the top of the draft. And here's the thing. You're John Gruden. You have done everything this season. All the decisions he's made since taking over as head coach suggest he wants to mold this team the way he wants to mold this team. It's going to be built his way. That's why he gets rid of Khalil Mack. That's why he gets rid of Amari Cooper. At the same time, you don't think a guy who's going to build the team his way is going to do the same thing at the most important position on the football field, at quarterback. He's going to get the guy that he wants to get at the top of this draft, in my opinion. And also, in my opinion, Justin Herbert has more tools to play with than any other quarterback in this draft. Fantastic arm strength. Nowhere near a finished product at this point, but if he does come out, he could still sit on the bench for a year behind Carr, and John Gruden could work his magic or whatever it is, get him involved in that system to then be the quarterback of the future. And so I think with John Gruden's 10-year contract, he's going to do it the way he wants to do it. And I think at the quarterback position, you can't afford to do it any other way.
See that, Raiders fans? It makes perfect sense, especially at the quarterback position, the most important quarterback position on the field. You have to hit it, and you can't have too many good quarterbacks if that next guy, like Herbert, is a potential star. The rest of the Raiders draft, they'll be one of the stories all of draft season that we had him at number 22 picking with the Dallas Cowboys pick that they got, and then number 26, the Chicago Bears adding linebacker Devin Bush from Michigan, and then wide receiver DK Metcalf from Ole Miss. Again, this is fascinating. They have 3 picks, franchise-changing draft potentially for the Raiders. What do Bush and Metcalf add?
Yeah, I think you just go best player available, obviously, after the pick there at the top of the draft. Bush adds a physicality to that front 7 that they're absolutely missing. It's just been a very weak front 7 in terms of rushing the passer and stopping the run. Bush is fantastic as a blitzer, been one of the best, has I think the 3rd most pressures of any linebacker over the last 2 seasons. He's great in that role, is just a hammer there in the box. So from that perspective, will be an upgrade there. And then DK Metcalf, he's all potential at this point. 6'5", freakish athleticism, had a great game against Alabama, but had some bad games as well. Just kind of got lost in that offense with a bunch of weapons at Ole Miss. Got hurt again this past season, but the traits are off the charts. If you think down the road he could be, a number 1 type of receiver, I think you grab him in the first round.
All right, let's go back to the quarterbacks because we had 3 quarterbacks going in the first round. Herbert at number 2, then you had the Jacksonville Jaguars at 9 taking Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State, and then the New England Patriots taking Will Grier at number 29. What about Haskins to the Jaguars?
Yeah, Haskins really came on the scene this year. His accuracy and downfield, the arm strength down the field, very good. Saw a lot of struggles under pressure, though, this season with Haskins, but from a clean pocket, had the 2nd best passer rating of any quarterback in the nation. That's what we've seen has been more translatable in our data. So I think he'll end up going top 10. I'm not sure where he ends up going in the top 10, but the Jaguars aren't really in position with their cap space right now to get a quarterback by other means. Blake Bortles obviously isn't it. They can't go out and get a Jameis Winston. They can't go out and get a Derek Carr via trade because they don't have the cap space. Other teams like the Giants in the top 10 could feasibly do that because they have the cap space. Jaguars don't. They're going to have to turn the draft, and if Haskins is there, they'd be hard-pressed to pass.
That's a really good fit there. Like you said, Haskins, just a breakout season this year and very impressive. From a clean pocket, as you said, still has some questions of the way he played on the road and under pressure. And then Will Grier, the Patriots have been in the QB market for a few years now, especially since trading Jimmy Garoppolo. Last year, they didn't like anybody enough to go make a power move, and they're sitting there at 29. It's not a great quarterback draft, but Grier could be a nice fit in the back end of the first.
Yeah, Grier's an interesting name because he comes from simplistic offenses, had some troubles with decision-making also in that offense, but in terms of arm strength and accuracy, we've seen him make big-time throw after big-time throw down the field this past season. He's put up fantastic numbers. West Virginia to one of their best seasons this past year. So I think from a developmental standpoint, he checks a lot of the boxes that the Patriots would like if Tom Brady does come back for another year. He gets some seasoning, very much like Jimmy Garoppolo was in terms of the simplistic offense that he came from out of Eastern Illinois.
Brady's got 10 more years, Mike. We all know that. One other big story, I think, with the draft, you have the Green Bay Packers sitting there with 2 picks as well. They'll draft at number 10 in this version. Josh Allen from Kentucky, just a great all-around edge defender. And then they'll be at number 30, the Saints pick, taking A.J. Brown, the other wide receiver from Ole Miss. How'd you construct this Packers draft?
I think it's going to be a very good Packers draft for them in terms of where the talent is in this draft. It's talent along the edge, defensive line in this draft, and there's a lot of talent at wide receiver. So edge talent, we got them getting Josh Allen. They obviously desperately need it. Clay Matthews well past his prime. Nick Perry keeps getting hurt. They have one of the worst edge rushing duos in the NFL at this point. So Josh Allen, breakout season this year, 6'5", 260, can bend with the best of them. He might even not make it to where the Packers end up drafting with how good he's been, our number 1 graded edge defender this season. And then A.J. Brown, consistently fantastic after the catch. The Packers love those receivers that can get yak after the catch, break tackles, those shifty guys. He fits from that perspective. They're going to lose Randall Cobb, put him right there in the slot next year. I think it'd be a perfect fit.
Let's wrap it up in just broad terms. Strengths and weaknesses of the draft. When you're putting together a mock draft, a lot of times you're like, man, I've got a million defensive linemen coming off the board, or there's just not an offensive tackle that I really like here. What was going through your head as you're seeing all of that unfold?
Yeah, the defensive interior in this draft is loaded, in my opinion. You have the top of the draft, Quinnen Williams, Ed Oliver, Dexter Lawrence, Christian Wilkins, Jerry Tillery, just so many names that I see end up going there when it's all said and done. So defensive interior is loaded, and there's a lot of talent at edge as well. So if you're in need of defensive line help, I think this is the year. There's also a pretty deep wide receiver class of guys who would be first and second rounders. So not necessarily a top-end, surefire home run guy, but I think there's about 10 or so guys that could go in the first 2 rounds that could step in right away.
Yeah, the wide receiver rankings are going to be fascinating. You're going to see those all over the board, I think, as we close in on April. So there you have it, the mock draft Bachelorette edition from Mike Renner. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below, and be sure to get to ProFootballFocus.com for the full mock draft breakdown.